All right, guys. So Ben Shapiro decided to really take a couple swings at Tucker Carlson and also, by extension here, Donald Trump as well, because Tucker interviewed Trump during the Republican debate. And listen, Twitter is lying relentlessly about the numbers. You know, they're pretending it's like 80 million or 100 million people or some nonsense that watch. That's totally not true. Even Shapiro is going to admit this in the clip about like, that's not really the numbers. But not much came out of that debate. But to the extent anything did, it was so annoying, even to another right-winger like Ben Shapiro, where he feels the need, I gotta call out Tucker, I gotta call out Trump, because this stuff is hilariously stupid. Let's watch.
Tucker Carlson on Twitter, X. Apparently, it has some 200 million views. Now, worth explaining here that every time you scrolled past the video on Twitter and spent longer than 2 seconds on it, that counts as a view. So is that equivalent to actually watching a national televised debate? Those views are not in any way equivalent, but those are a big number nonetheless. And Trump, had it easy. Tucker asked him 0 hard questions. Tucker did not press him on pretty much anything. It wasn't a serious interview. I mean, I've seen Tucker do serious interviews where he asked hard questions of people. This was clearly not that interview. It doesn't mean that Trump wasn't funny. So for all those who think that Vivek is another Trump, I don't think anybody's another Trump. Trump is a deeply funny human being. I mean, the guy has like a real sense of humor. The contrast is sort of, Trump is the 7th grade bully who says things about people that are inherently funny. Right? He's the guy who makes fun of that guy for being fat. And he's the guy who makes fun of that guy for being slow. And he's that guy. Vivek is the guy who got into Harvard, lets every single person in the room know about it, and then makes fun of you for owning like a 1987 Honda Civic while he has a Benz. It's not quite the same sense of humor. And one is a lot kind of sharper and more divisive. In any case, I'll give you an example. Vivek's joke last night about Nikki Haley, or his attack on her, is that she was hired by Raytheon or some such. Trump's attack on Joe Biden is that he looks like he walks on toothpicks, which is hysterically funny. Here's Donald Trump last night.
But he's a corrupt person, so corrupt that I took the name off Hillary. I don't do 2 people at one time. I took the crooked Hillary and I retired the name. That was a good day for her. I bet she was very happy. And I used it for Joe because it's Crooked Joe. But Joe is really...
But you don't think he's going to make it to November of 2024?
Well, I think he's worse mentally than he is physically. And physically, he's not exactly a triathlete or any kind of an athlete. You look at him, he can't walk to the helicopter. He walks, he can't lift his feet out of the grass. It's only 2 inches at the White House, right? That's not a lot. But you watch him, and it looks like he's walking on toothpicks. And then you see him on the beach where he can't lift a chair. Those chairs are meant to be light, right? They're like 2 ounces. You lift them up. He can't lift a chair. He can't walk to the chair. And I don't know what they're doing with the beach. This beach is seeming to play a big role, but they love pictures of him on the beach. I think he looks terrible on the beach.
This is the fakest laugh I've ever seen from Shapiro. I mean, look, he's right that Trump is hilarious, but this laugh is the fakest thing I've ever seen.
Inimitable. I mean, like that's it. I mean, you can't imitate it, but you can't duplicate it, man. He is an insult comic, right? I mean, that's what the guy does for a living, and he insult comicked his way to being president of the United States. Whether he can do it again is another question. But I mean, like, no one on the stage can do that, obviously. Like, is that a quality that you need in a president? Probably not. Is it really funny? Yeah, it's really, really funny. Let's talk about the fact that your cell phone...
Of course, he has to squeeze an ad into an 11-minute and 44-second video. Classic Shapiro.
The nature of this particular interview was just Tucker not asking him anything remotely difficult. The most difficult question that he asked Trump was whether Epstein killed himself, to which Trump said, yeah, probably.
If Bill Clinton was asked that question and he answered that way, what would the right be saying? I think Jeffrey probably killed himself. Everybody on the right would be like, oh my God, what a liar. He knows that's not true. What dirt does Ghislaine have on you? Oh, my God. But when Trump says it, and by the way, Trump, of course, was a friend of Epstein and had some very yikesy quotes about Epstein, and he likes him young. Jeffrey likes him young. Nobody on the right really made a peep to be like, I don't know, man, this seems kind of sketchy.
Has principles, obviously. He speaks about them regularly. This would have been a great opportunity for him to ask the former president and leading Republican candidate about some of those principles. He didn't do any of it. Instead, he how soft were the softballs that Tucker was throwing to Donald Trump? He asked Donald Trump to rip on Mike Pence by suggesting that Donald Trump had always been very nice to Mike Pence. This question is so bizarre. I don't even know what to say about this.
So Shapiro kind of going after Tucker, saying, hey, man, you did the softball of all softball interviews, and you should have asked tough questions. You got the leading Republican candidate here. You had an opportunity, and you absolutely blew it.
You've always been nice to Pence. I've never heard you criticize Pence. You've defended him in public many, many times. He's out there attacking you. What is that?
What? So Mike wants to run for president. You got to understand, in my opinion, Mike Pence had the absolute right to send the votes back to the legislatures. The Democrats and everybody said, you don't have the right. In other words, what I said, is he a human conveyor belt? You mean if he finds fraud in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in any of these states?
I don't care about Trump's answer. It's Tucker's question that's absurd. You've always been nice to Mike Pence? The actual what? What? Oh! Okay, for those who have a memory of a goldfish, let me remind you of a time when Donald Trump suggested, nay, said outright, that Mike Pence had the unilateral capacity to overthrow an American election, essentially called him a coward, suggested that he would be forced to do so. And then when Mike Pence called him from the Capitol building on January 6th, because the Capitol building was under assault, he basically did nothing. You were always very nice to Mike Pence is one of the craziest Orwellian statements I've ever heard.
I'm actually surprised Shapiro's going this hard over this. I'm surprised by it. I mean, maybe it's because he's a DeSantis supporter, so he feels like this is an opportunity to bash both Tucker and Trump. But yeah, by the way, something he didn't even mention was the hang Mike Pence chant that was going on. And of course, Trump, after the fact, when somebody brought up to him, like, they're chanting hang Mike Pence out there, Trump was like, maybe Mike deserves it. Maybe Mike deserves it. Mike should have done the right thing. He should have done it. That's not nice. Oh, you've always been nice to him. Oh, really? Really? No. Pence was an absolute sycophant to Donald Trump. Then there was one thing he wouldn't do for him, which is end democracy and facilitate a coup. And Trump has been ruthless ever since then against Pence. Think of how absurd that is, man. The guy did everything for you for years. And then one thing, which is, hey, man, I don't really want to end democracy. And he's like, oh, Mike, terrible guy, bad guy, low energy, weak, didn't do the right thing. He didn't do the right thing. Really pious, really terrible.
That's like truly, that's a crazy, crazy question. But that was the nature of this. That was the nature of this interview. Which again, softball interview on Twitter. Did it counter program Fox? Not really. I watched both. I doubt very many people actually did. And Tucker did ask him one question that was of relevance, but then he didn't press him on it. He said, they stole it last time. Why wouldn't they steal it this time? Now, the question you should have asked is, we all know they're going to. You say that you won the election last time, and if you're Tucker, you believe that's true, apparently, or you at least believe enough of it that you're willing to say it. The question to Trump should be, okay, how are you going to unsteal it? Right? I mean, that's like a question that, whether you love Trump, whether you hate Trump, like, that's a really good question that Trump has never answered. You say the election was stolen in 2020, but you won. But it was stolen, but you won. So let's say the same thing happens this time. What is your plan to unsteal the election? Can you name how you're going to overcome all of this? Can you lay out, like, your electoral strategy? How are you going to get out the vote? What kind of budgeting are you dedicating to, say, grassroots organizing? What sort of budget are you dedicating to your legal team? What sort of legal measures are you preparing? Do you have ballot watchers? Do you have vote counters? Like, how exactly is this going? Like, that would be a useful question. How much of your Trump campaign fund is being dedicated to, say, your legal expenses in Georgia, as opposed to building up the infrastructure necessary to preserve an election that you win if you say that you won 2020? Is that the question Tucker asked? No, he asked him the question of, like, why are people so mean to you?
And immediately after the election, they met rhinos, could name them all, and Democrats, and they approved legislation that takes away the right of the vice president to do it. So I said, so you're saying I was right. The vice president did have the right to do it. And they said, yes, he did.
So if you're saying they stole it from you last time, why wouldn't they do the same this time?
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying, yeah. And not only me, these people are sick. They will go after them. And a lot of people say they won't be able to hold up. I do get credit for holding up quite well, I must tell you.
By the way, that's actually a scary answer from Trump. He's like, hey, Tucker says, oh, they stole it before. What would prevent them from stealing it this time? And he goes, oh, they're going to try. In other words, Trump wins the primary and he gets to the general. Even if he gets blown out by the Democrat, he's going to do the exact same thing and say it is rigged. And he'd probably do all the same things over again, except it'd probably be more aggressive. He'd probably be more forceful. And it might even get uglier than it did in 2020. That's scary. That's scary. Because look, embedded in everything he's saying is they did steal the election. So that they're the riggers, as he says. But they didn't. The election wasn't stolen, and that's been proven. But if you say it is, and you're insistent that you're going to win no matter what, then what happens next time when he likely loses in a general election? And nobody's really talking about this. Like, this is a very distinct possibility now. It's terrifying.
How do you get indicted, every week and stay cheerful?
How do you get indicted and stay so amazing and beautiful?
It's a lot easier because I'm so high in the polls, because it means the people get it. The people see it's a fraud.
Yeah, okay. The people get it. Do you believe Trump is guilty of the alleged crimes in the sensitive documents case? 25% say not guilty. Falsifying business records case. 23% say not guilty. Election subversion case. Only 26% not guilty. Georgia election subversion case. 26% not guilty. There's also this one. 62% say Trump committed a crime. 67% of independents say Trump committed a crime. You tell me. The people get it. The people get it. The people do get it. But in the opposite way of the way you think. Just because you're up in a Republican primary doesn't mean Dickie McGee's acts for the whole country.
That's not counter-programming. I'm sorry. That really is not. I mean, it's just a propaganda 45-minute softball for Trump. That's all that is. I mean, just Realistically speaking, that you may love it, maybe that's your bag, but that's what it is. And that, how are you simultaneously so brave and yet so humble?
So this is Shapiro calling Tucker a propagandist. Look, gotta hand it to him. When he's right, he's right. When he's right, he's right. You go look at the history on this channel of me talking about Ben Shapiro. It is literally like 95% of the time negative. But hey, you know what? This is in that 5%. He's right. It was pathetic. It was weak. It was a softball. And it was rank propaganda. And when even Ben Shapiro can see through that, you didn't do well. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.